place of encouragement. This is a place of discipleship. So God, we just pray that all of those things that you have scheduled for us today will happen, and we'll get out of the way and just enjoy it. And God, I thank you for the blessing of family and the blessing of your word. And we just pray that you'll bless us now. In Jesus' name, amen. Sally, yes? Everything that's been said so far. There you go. Good job. So Sally and I we've had a full weekend. As many of you know, we had a birthday party for 3 people because Ben's birthday was last week, Sarah's birthday was this week, Thomas's birthday was yesterday. Thomas is our son-in-law, the one who married and stole Hannah away to Virginia. Not angry with him or anything, but whatever. Sarah's had 2 beautiful baby showers. For those of you who've attended either of them or tried to, thank you very much. And then this afternoon, we have even more to do. But at one point, Sally and I got to look around yesterday, and on our pool deck were all of our children and soon-to-be grandchildren and that one little redheaded fella. And so we had a great time yesterday, and it's great to be with family. It's great to have Chris back. His wife and kids are up in Michigan, so it's great to have him here today, and great to have Jeff here, and all of y'all. It's great to have you. There's not a single person in here who I'm sorry you showed up. With that being said, there's an old story about a bird who flew south for the winter. It's good to have you here. There you go. Keep playing. Keep playing. There might even be cash if you get the whole thing filled in. And I do have the tape. I will go back and watch. So anyways, so there's this bird, and he was flying south for the winter. But he was kind of a lazy bird. He was kind of you've heard the saying, the early bird gets the worm. This bird was not into that whole philosophy. He was a little bit more laid back than that. And he saw everybody else, all the other birds flew south. He didn't. He kept waiting, he kept putting it off, and then all of a sudden, the first snow hits, and now this bird has to make it south for the winter. So he begins to fly. Well, unfortunately for him, he had waited too late. As he is flying, he begins to freeze. His wings begin to ice up. He begins to freeze, and so he just glides down into this barnyard. And he lands there, and he cannot move his wings. He can feel himself slipping into hyperthermia. He's frozen, and he knows, I should have started earlier. Well, about that time, out walks this big old Guernsey cow, and the Guernsey cow just walks right up to this bird, and the bird's kind of looking at him. The cow gets right over him, and the cow drops a plop of manure right on the bird. Talk about kicking a guy when he's down. The bird is thinking, how horrible. I mean, I'm sitting here, I'm almost dead, and this cow walks over and just plops a big one right on me. In his disgust, he kind of begins to think, you know what? Actually, that's really warm. You know what? I can feel my wings. You know what? I'm beginning to move. Hey, this is warming me up. I'm not frozen anymore. I'm beginning to thaw out. This is cool. And about that time, a barn cat comes out of the barn, walks over, picks up the bird, and begins to do what cats do, clean the bird. You know. And then the cat ate the bird. The moral of the story is, not everybody who takes a plop on you is your enemy, and not everybody who cleans a plop off of you is your friend. Paul was having to talk to these Christians who probably maybe as early as 3 years earlier or even farther, but these people, he brought them the pure gospel, which is that Jesus is enough. You don't need more than Jesus. You just need Jesus. Jesus is enough. He brought them that message. They bought that message. But then these people came around and go, no. Paul wasn't really your friend. We're your friends because we have the new and improved. We have the better. We have the real thing. What he taught you is it's not even accurate. We're bringing you the good stuff. We're your friends. Thank you. We're the beautifully spotted bag, gift bag. Paul is that crumpled up old bag that came, we're your friends. They weren't their friends. And Paul is trying to say to them, he's going to say to them two things today. He's going to say, number one, they are not your friends. And number two, I am not your enemy. How many of y'all have ever gone to somebody out of love, out of friendship, and had to confront somebody with something, and the next thing you know, you are off the list? You have been thrown under the bus. You are but you do it out of love. I mean, you can do it with family members. You go to them in love and in truth, and then all of a sudden, you're their enemy. So Paul's going to be talking about that today. So Paul is saying to them today in Galatians, and to us here at Gateway, you were a slave, but now you're a son. Jonathan, I heard you, buddy. Bingo. Was that you? Okay, good. You know God and are known by God. In case you missed God, he's right there in the middle. Get that? You know God and are known by God. We're going to talk about that. You don't need to please men. You don't need to see me as your enemy. That's the things that Paul's going to be saying today. So verse 8 of chapter 4 goes like this. Formerly, when you did not know God, you were slaves to those who by nature are not God's. Now, Paul is reminding these Gentile Christians, before I brought you the message, before you received the gospel of Christ, you were slaves. You were slaves to the world. You were slaves to sin. You were slaves to flesh. Okay, and remember last week we were talking about there's this group of people over here who are the ones trying to add the law. These were good Jewish people who were trying to add the law. He's not saying back when you were those. He's not saying that. He said before you were even saved and you were just the Gentile sinners that you were, and you didn't obey the law, you didn't obey anything. That's what he's talking about here. Paul is reminding the Galatian Christians that before they came to Christ, they were slaves to sin and those who trade in sin. Very common for those people who trade in sin to see themselves as God. You think about people in the drug cartel, those people who are high up in the drug cartel. They really think they are God. They really think they get to decide who lives, who dies. And you can bring that to pretty much into anybody who is peddling sin. They have elevated themselves to the level of God where they get to decide what's right. They get to decide what is wrong. Paul is saying, you are under these people. By nature are not gods, but they think they're gods. It doesn't matter how pretty the chains are chains. Thank you very much. But now, verse 9. Thank you. But now you know God, or rather are known by God. How is it that you are turning back to those weak and miserable forces? Do you wish to be enslaved by them all over again? Sally and I both attended Belmont. At that time it was Belmont College. Now it's Belmont University. And we both were there. I don't think that's me. The guy who was president when Sally and I both started, we were there his last year, the older gentleman, Dr. Gabhart. Okay, Dr. Gabhart. The next president that came in was Dr. Trout. And Dr. Trout, I was with a PR group, and we would go around and we would sing at churches and we would sing at schools, and we were trying to bring people into Belmont through the music and all that stuff. Sally was an actual student, went to class, studied, all that kind of stuff. That's the reason if you ever want to know how to do something, you should ask her. That's it. So anyways, I did this one time. We went on a concert tour, and Dr. Trout was there. And he was there because we would sing, and then he would get up and say, hey, I'm Dr. Trout. I'm the new president of Belmont College, and we'd like for your kids to come and you to send all your money. That was his job. I met him that day, and of course, I was one of many people who met him that day. And so if you ask me, do you know Dr. Trout? I'd say, yes, I met him the other day. I know Dr. Trout. Okay, well, here's what actually happened, though, one day when Sally decided to go see Dr. Trout, and she goes to his office, and his receptionist, administrative assistant, whatever the politically correct name is sitting there, and she's giving Sally a hard time about, well, Dr. Trout's very busy, blah, blah, blah. And then from out inside his office, he says, "Is that Sally Brazier? Sally Brazier, get on in here." Because he knew Sally. See, I knew him, but he knew Sally, and when he knows her, it gets a lot more clout than me just knowing him. Yeah, we waved at each other. You don't just know God, you are known by God. How many of y'all understand? You're known by God. Oh man, but he really doesn't like me. No, you're known by him and he likes you. Even more of a shock. He likes you. He loves you. He sent his son to die for you. You are known by God. So again, what is Paul saying? He goes, look, you know God, and more importantly, you are known by God. But now that you know God, or rather are known by God, how is it that you are turning back to those weak and miserable forces? Do you wish to be enslaved by them all over again? And see, what he's doing here is he's comparing two different things. They're being drawn back into a kind of a legalistic thing. They didn't come out of a legalistic thing. They came out of a pretty much just live as however you want to live thing. But he's drawing a parallel that those are both the same condition, lost. Those are both the same condition, being slaves. You can be a slave to the law, or you can be a slave just to pure old flesh, but you don't want to be a slave. Why would you go back and volunteer to be a slave when you know God and you are known by God? All right, huge statement in two parts. You know God, you are known by God. And when he says the word weak and miserable, it's kind of a nice picture there. Weak literally means, we see that same word when it's lame. Anytime you see somebody was lame and they were healing him, that weak is lame. Now, we know that it may not be very popular right now, but not too many years ago, that was a big term. You know, oh man, that's lame. That's lame. What does it mean? It means that just was dumb. It was stupid. It was worthless. It was not cool. It was not the thing you wanted to be. You were weak. You were lame. And miserable. Miserable means poor. Like so poor you can't pay attention poor. So do you want to be lame and poor? Because that's what you get when you sign up for either I'm going to just be all about the law or I'm going to be all about myself. That puts you in one camp with two different badges. And either way, you're weak and poor. And Paul's saying, why do you want to be weak and poor? You are a son of the Most High God. You're a joint heir with Jesus Christ. And you're going to trade that for, I'm sorry, what? Cat food? When you could have a cow tail? Which there's a cow tail in one of those bags. I'm just telling you. If you don't know what a cow tail is, I'm sorry. Verse 10. You are observing special days and months and seasons and years. Now, he's jumping to the current situation of obeying the law. But see, to him, it's all the same thing. What benefit is there in a life observing special days, months, seasons, years, compared to knowing God and being known by God? But see, some people, that's what they want. That knowing God and being known by God is kind of hard to grasp. But man, I sure can keep a list. Man, I sure can put stars on the refrigerator. I sure can do a checklist. I would much rather be in a religion where there's a checklist so I know how I'm doing. Instead of this kind of, I just have to have faith and trust. Yeah, you have to have faith and trust. But can't there be at least one checklist? No. Just there's one box. Check one box. Are you known and do you know God? Okay. No more checklists, sorry. No more to-do lists. No more, well, I'm better than that person. It's a comparative religion. Anytime you want to get involved in the law, you want to compare yourself to other people because it makes me feel better because I know I can find at least one person who doesn't do as much as I do. I know I can find at least one person who, if he walked in a room, everybody would go, oh man, that is the, now, okay, before it was Mike, now he's the worst person in the room. Isn't that the way people are? How many people put